What's up, y'all? A little faith, and welcome to episode number
10s across the board of the Fagnostic Podcast.
Today, I have my good friend James LaVeck here to talk about his new book, Life After Losses. I met him through Del Shores, and since then, he has become a friend, a student in my acting class, and an award-winning producer thanks to his contribution to my film Cognitive. James LaVeck is an American author, blogger, and actor residing in North Central Massachusetts. In late 2019, he decided to write his inspirational memoir, Life After Losses, a memoir of love, loss, and life. Part memoir, part self-help book. The book is about his journey through losing not one, but two husbands by the time he was 47. LaVeck shares his struggles reconciling his sexuality and his religion and spirituality, growing up as a gay man in the mid to late 1980s. It was a near-death experience at 18 years old that freed him to believe he was created in the image of the Almighty and was not a mistake or sinner as he had been preached to. LaVeck takes readers along his journey with raw honesty, providing vivid glimpses into the depths of his grief and the highs of his relationships with the men he eventually married. While the circumstances of their deaths were different, he noticed a similarity in grieving in both his own journey and seeing others' journeys too. In a writing journey that started over 20 years earlier, LaVeck found catharsis and, surprisingly, meaning in his grief journey several years after the death of his second husband. He hopes to inspire others grieving or processing a loss toward healing and finding there is indeed life after losses. Here is Jim LaVeck.
James LaVeck, thank you for being here today with me. I'm going to call you Jim the rest of the conversation because that's how I know you, but the book that we're going to talk about, Life After Losses, is under James LaVeck, which is your full name, and I just don't want to mess myself up by calling you both names, so I want to specify that before we get started. That's why I'm calling you Jim.
Understood. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for being here. It is, I would say it's such an honor, but we're more casual than that. I'm just glad you're here because we're friends outside of this.
I'm amazed I'm here because I've been listening to the podcast and considering the guests up until this point. I feel like doing Wayne's World moment of saying, I know I'm not worthy.
Whatever. No, but your story is, and that's what this whole podcast is about, is elevating those voices, those authentic voices with real life experiences to make the rest of us feel like our questioning and our search is okay and safe. And so that said, every episode I start off with the famous question, are you a believer? So are you a believer?
Oh, God, I'm a believer in Neil Diamond. Yeah, I would say I'm a believer in as much as I believe that there are good people in the world. I believe in surrounding myself with the positive energy that the universe can provide to me. I am not a believer of organized religion. I think that's a fallacy of man. But I do believe that there's something greater. I can't put a name to it, though.
Sure. I get that. That's probably the majority of the responses I get is something in that ballgame. And we're going to talk about what led you to that take on the divine in a bit. But just so we don't assume anything, can you identify your pronouns for us?
I am a he, him, his.
Awesome. Thank you. So Jim, you and I met. Well, we met for the first time in real life this past Sunday, but we've known each other digitally for a few years now, at least. I mean, probably as long as I've known Del, you have been in the realm of recognition as well, because you have been so present. And when I say Del Shores, who was in episode 2, just so you guys remember that. But Del's a filmmaker, and Jim's been a big part of funding and contributing to Del's work as well. So because I get paychecks from Del Shores, thank you for your contributions to Del Shores. But how did you get involved with his storytelling and then to the point of being a part of it?
Oh, well, there's a bit of a story there. So I remember seeing Southern Baptist Sissies around 99, 2000 timeframe, maybe 2001, and was just blown away by the story. And in 2014, my second husband passed away, so we're kind of story leaping here.
We're going to circle back. Don't you worry.
He passed away, and I reached out to Levi Christ, who did the theme song for Southern Baptist Sissies, about doing a song commission.
And just so you guys know,
And
Levi is a Tony Award winning in fucking credible artist. One of the sickest
that's a great
talents.
adjective, yes.
Yeah, I've seen him live once at the Purple Room in Palm Springs, and he truly, his gift is. Do you know those people that are so good? You're like, can you just have like one bad show?
Do
Can you
one
just,
flaw, yeah.
yeah, I need that for
If you just
me.
hit a bad key once.
Right, please. And it doesn't hurt that he's like sexy as hell. He really has everything
And
going
he's
for
sweet
him,
as
and
hell.
we hate him.
I know. And he's just sweet, one of the sweetest guys. So
Yes,
I did a song commission for him in my husband's memory. It was called Legacy. And somehow he mentioned Dell was looking for investors for a very sordid wedding. And having been a fan of the Sorted franchise for years, I reached out to Dell and we got talking, and um, so I was able to get a producer credit for that film, and then uh, a young upstart came up with this film called Cognitive that
I've heard of it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, he was searching for some funding, crowdfunding on that, and the story spoke to me. Um, and so
So what you're saying is
I
that you are
threw a couple of bucks towards that way too.
and you got another producer credit. So you
I
were
got another producer
and
credit, yeah.
both of the films that you have been producer on have won multiple awards. So you are a producer of multiple award-winning films at this point.
Yeah, you know what? That's part of my bio then.
Good. Yes, it should be. I love that. It's a big part. I mean, you can see my award sitting over my shoulder right now. I lead with that. I don't bury that lead.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, you know, like you did with Levi, you know, the Tony
Right.
Award winner, Levi Christ.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not
go,
I'm,
go,
yes.
you earn them.
Yeah. Well, and as I have thanked you profusely before, your contribution to Cognitive was pivotal to that film being made. I mean, everyone involved with that, from the financial standpoint, that I'm looking at the poster right now because every time I see it, I can almost get emotional because of people like you that believed in this story that I didn't really even fully believe in its power at the time myself. It was just an accident that I started to work on, and it attracted all the right people, from the cast to the crew to the producers, and it's the gift that keeps on giving. It streams, multiple places, and we're actually going to do a Cognitive episode with all the cast. We're just coordinating schedules right now. So
Great.
Jessalyn, Dell, Erica, Daniel, Zachary, and Zachary's mother, because I feel like that's an important conversation as well. They're all going to be there to talk about their view on what that film was about, and also just religion otherwise. But so then you commissioned Levi to do the song. That's how you met Dell.
Yeah,
What?
well, I think that's how we got reacquainted with Dell. The my friends that I went to see the play with reminded me that we out after the show to meet the cast and crew. So we must have met at some point, but
Right.
I I've slept since then.
Yeah. Well, I know that you've become quite a close friend of Dell's as well. And you so we knew a bit about your story, I think, leading up to the release of your book, but never in the detail that the book discloses. So can you give us an idea of the book's journey, and then I want to circle back to how the book's journey impacted your view on the divine, because so much of the book is about your reaction to the spirit world and religion because of the circumstances that life very unfairly threw at you. So tell us about the book.
So the book is
It's called Life
I
After Losses, just so everybody knows.
called Life After Losses, a memoir of love, loss, and life. Um, it's available everywhere, including my website, jameslaveck.com or lifeafterlosses.com. So yeah, it's a book about um, the two men in my life that I married, and both passed away uh, before I was 47. Um, and the the impacts of each of those losses and how I got through each of those losses and to come to the other side, and the lessons that I learned along the way. It's a memoir slash self-help. I do provide some specific advice that I think is helpful to somebody who's grieving or new to the process. I even had a conversation earlier today with somebody online. After 17 years, they're ready to start the forgiveness process, and I've been writing about that myself for a while, including on the blog that supplements the. So yeah, it was a book that was 25 years in the making. I started writing it in '97, and then I shelved it when it was written because I did not feel as a 30-year-old that I had the proper perspective to share the story, and
Hmm.
it didn't feel like a full story.
Well, it wasn't the full
When
story because that was before the second husband passed, right?
well, that was before I even met the second husband. Yeah, so it was 2 years after the loss of my first husband.
How old were you when you lost your first husband?
I was 27.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and so I talk about how what does a 27-year-old know about grieving when I had not experienced a significant loss in my life prior to that. Nobody taught me how to grieve, so I did what I would imagine a lot of people do when they don't know what they're doing. I took uh, I went down the path that made life difficult for future paths. I drank a lot. That was the only way I would sleep, is I would drink until I passed out.
Yeah.
And then I'd go to work the next day, and then I'd come home and drink until I passed out. So yeah, there were, and I talk about this in the book. There's, you know, it's weird having these conversations with friends that think they know me, but they don't know the full story. And even my family, my sister, I had lunch with her yesterday, visiting here in California, and she mentioned I had no idea what you were going through because I didn't make myself available to you. It's partly that, but it was also partly because I was pushing people away. I was in a lot of pain,
Sure.
and so I did some self-destructive things. In
But you also, because I feel like this can really speak to people who maybe, because people may hear your story and think that's so much loss. I don't have that, but there's a chance to take away something from your experience on a
Oh
smaller
yeah,
scale. And I feel like with you looking to vices, but also I know from the book you were addicted to work. I mean, you were addicted to this trajectory of moving forward and faster and bigger and richer, and which many of us are. I mean, that's
yeah.
part of the toxicity of the American dream. But it seems that you were avoiding what was really going on in terms of recognizing how this grief affects you.
I was, and again, it took the second time, 20 years later, to really put things in perspective for me. And so at that point,
The
and then it
second
took
time, as in
even
the second
the second
husband,
husband
right?
passing away. Yeah.
And most
Well,
people don't lose one partner, until they are late in life,
right,
and you lost two before you were even middle aged. I mean, the,
right.
the the the
Yeah,
number of middle age is debatable. I saw your face
it's
just then,
debatable.
but but still, I mean, two partners before. I mean, Jim,
Yeah, I was 47.
did you repeat the same behavior the second time?
I did not. And the reason was I had two children at that point.
Yeah.
We had adopted two children that we were raising.
How old
They
were
were
they?
11 and 9.
God.
Yes, 11 and 9. And so it was so I had two preteens that I had to raise. That and I had the opportunity to. I actually had an obligation. It wasn't less of an opportunity. It was more of an obligation to help them
Yeah.
learn how to grieve uh, properly
Do
and
you
to
think that
not go into those negative behaviors like I did before.
do you think that obligation saved your life from repeating the same behaviors?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Wow.
because I couldn't.
Yeah.
I had two kids that depended on me and needed me before I had a dog. And the dog loved me and depended on me, but
Right.
then it was two humans that I had to take care of physically, emotionally, and make sure that they recognized that I was still there.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't planning on going anywhere, and that I was going to be
Yeah.
there. And so that it was 7.5 years ago that happened. Actually, it's 7.5 years tomorrow. So that's another thing. The calendar is always
Mm-hmm.
there,
Yeah.
no matter how many years have passed.
Did grieving your second husband take away from grieving for your first husband?
Um, no, I don't think it did. I think it actually grieving for the second one allowed me to, because I had gone through it once before. I knew what emotions to expect.
Mm.
I knew that certain things were going to happen when a certain timeline, whatever that timeline was for me. But things were going to happen that needed to happen. And so having that experience allowed me to grieve the second husband. Um, I don't want to say easier, but it was more understandable of what was happening, and so that I
Sure.
could anticipate what was happening. Like for the first one, I pushed people away because I did not want any help.
Yeah.
I couldn't look at other people. The second one, by that point, I had learned that other people are grieving too, and they want to be able to help.
Yeah.
And so the community put together a deliver food to the family thing, and so there was a blue cooler on my front porch, and everybody went online and they decided who was going to deliver what food on what night. I swear I did not cook a meal for 2.5 months.
I believe it.
And it I because I knew that the community, he made himself very big in the community, um, needed a chance to mourn and to feel like they were helping as well.
Yeah.
So I learned some lessons after that first one that I could apply to the second. And so that perspective gave me some feeling of gratitude
Mm-hmm.
for having gone through it before so that I could go through it again. And then by recognizing that, I became grateful for the second one for giving me the peace to understand the first one.
God.
So that was over the last, I really came to that realization like right before the final edit of the book.
Yeah.
As I was in the middle of writing and recollecting, trying to piece what all this meant together for me, that's when that realization hit me,
Right.
is that I needed one to understand the other and to apply some closure.
Yeah, absolutely. What you were raised Catholic, correct?
We started off Catholic
Okay.
um, uh, until my parents divorced. I was at a young age, and then that was in the it was the early 70s. And at that point, divorced Catholics were not allowed to go to church apparently, or to take communion, or I think that's what it was. So we were lapsed from the Catholic part, but we still did a lot of the rituals, and then found a different church. I don't even remember what it was at that point, that we would go to when I was younger. I don't remember which denomination it was.
Right. But by the time that you met because the first husband, from what I don't think you use this phrase, but he seems to be the great love of your life. There was a more like, maybe I shouldn't say that, but like there was the type of love you had for him seemed very much more fairy tale and romanticized.
It was the first love, yes. The
Yeah.
first real love.
So by the time you
Yeah.
met him, where was your mind and your soul in terms of your view of the divine?
So when I met him, I was 21. I had I'd gotten into a motor vehicle accident when I think it was 19. It was right before my 19th birthday, where I almost died. And it may have been, yeah, it was before my 19th birthday. I had already moved to Santa Barbara. I had this accident. I almost died. And at the time, I was conflicted because I always knew I was different, and I just refused to accept the fact that I was gay. So I had a girlfriend up until that point. And I had been trying to reconcile faith and sexuality up until that point as well. When I came out of um, whatever state I was in, and woke up in the hospital, I actually felt a sense of peace and calmness to that debate because I felt
The debate of
that I,
sexuality and faith.
yeah, the internal struggle that I was going through
Yeah.
of faith and sexuality, because I came out of that knowing that I was the way I was supposed to be,
Mm-hmm.
as if whatever divine being that there was said, "Get over yourself. You're as I made you.
Mm-hmm.
Live your life as I made you, and you'll be happy."
Wow.
And so it felt like a weight off my shoulders. So I eventually came to accept my own sexuality to myself. So I did break up with the girl, and but then it still had family to tell. Everybody else needed, or whoever else I guess needed to be told. So I did tell. I did come out to my family. My sister said, "Well, I wonder what took you so long." And then she became a born again Christian, and kind of said, "Oh, well, you're going to hell. Sorry."
So she accepted and then rescinded the acceptance
Well,
letter.
it, I hate to sound it like that, but it was around the same time that she was doing her whole reborn
Sure.
business as well. So it was like, yeah, I knew, but you're still going to hell. My mom accepted. She was just, of course, uh, worried for me, of course, because all gay men are going to die of AIDS.
Yeah.
Blah blah blah. You're not going to have a life. You're going to die young. People are going to discriminate against you. All the normal
Sure.
parental guilt things because they don't know any different about from the 80s and 90s. So I had, by the time I met my first husband, Bob, and I'll use his name, I had rented a room in a house with him, and because my sister had gotten pregnant and then she got married, so it's supposed to go the other way around if you're born again, right?
Right. Look, I'm from Alabama. We do it backwards down there.
All right. Well, then we California apparently too.
Right.
So yeah, and I had been living with my sister in an apartment in Santa Barbara because it's expensive, and as a student you needed a roommate. So I went to the local gay and lesbian resource center. Back then it was gay and lesbian, not LGBTQIA plus. Um, and we there was a posting for a roommate, so I went and interviewed for the roommate. First thing I noticed that there was a half dead Christmas tree on the wall. Well, it was a fully dead Christmas tree, half of a dead Christmas tree.
Half of a fully dead Christmas
Half of
tree.
a fully dead Christmas tree on the wall, decorated.
God. And what month was this?
And that was March, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, he was self-described for Christmas tree. And he was wearing an apron because he was washing dishes, and then the blue eyes just leapt out at me. So we talked. I moved in just as roommates. Um, Several months later, which was 33 years ago, last week, I think it was, on the 14th. See, that calendar's always there.
Mm-hmm.
He pulled me aside and said, "Hey, our other roommate, Patty, thinks that we flirt a lot. Is there something going on here between us?" And yeah, there was. So we wound up being together for 7 years after that.
Wow.
But at the same time, I was still, and to your back to your question, which was where I was spiritually, I was still, I was comfortable with where I was spiritually. I was trying to explain where I was spiritually to other people.
Sure.
So I was studying, I was doing some Bible study work with somebody who um, was about sexuality and religion, and what Jesus said, and the clobber passages in the Bible, and the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, many of the things you guys already talked about in your
Mm-hmm.
podcast so far, with several scholars that can certainly do much better justice to the stories than I can. But I learned this stuff as I was trying to, so I could explain it to like my mom, who is
Sure.
religious. Um, so that's where I was spiritually.
What did how did he pass?
He, unbeknownst to either of us, had been exposed to HIV, so he did have AIDS by the time he passed away. It was I believe it was non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. I get it mixed
Yeah.
up if it's non or I think it was non-Hodgkin's. Um,
How did his family react to that once? Because was that I imagine that he found that information out before he passed.
we found that information out once the lump appeared, and they did a biopsy. Um, and so then they did tests on both of us. He had
Mm-hmm.
seroconverted. I had not. His family did not know.
Yeah.
I believe his father had passed away by that point, and his his brother was not part of the conversation. His mother had already passed away years before that, so there wasn't any family of his that knew.
Mm-hmm. And just because
Frankly, trying to keep it quiet for him
right.
because it was he didn't want his family to know. He didn't want to be shown about his family.
You talk about that lump, and this is a few years before I came into my own sexuality. But I remember even in my early 20s, the Christian, I hate calling them the Christian right because they're so not right. But the Christian side of things, they have done such a excellent job of assigning traits and information, I won't call them facts, to our community. And one of those is like you said a bit ago, is that if you're gay, you're going to die of AIDS.
Right.
And I remember in my early 20s, just exploring, my sexuality and sleeping with, different people, but there was always that fear. And I remember because of the shame associated with gay sex, thank you, religion and evangelicals primarily, you take a shower and you'd feel your neck for lumps, you'd feel if your lymph nodes are swollen. And I just remember it took years to get over that fear, in the 90 days post-coital, with someone you didn't really know the information on, where you would still just, and now we have quick tests, and there's also preventative measures one can take
Right.
to not contract the virus, thank God. But it's, I just, that fear took years to go away. So what did that do? If you were so, secure in your faith at this point, you had the great love of your life, you had success. What did this chapter, what did it do to your relationship with the divine?
This is where I refer to it as it was, it's complicated. I would have changed my Facebook status to it's complicated.
Right.
Absolutely. Uh, there was was his. Sometimes there still is.
Mm-hmm.
Anger, a lot of anger. Um, uh, it it made things very difficult for me to continue to believe in a benevolent uh, deity that would allow somebody as good as he was, and as good as the friends that we buried that year. I went to 4 funerals that
Yeah.
year. And and before that, even the friends that we lost. Um, it made it very difficult to feel any kind of connection with the spiritual force at
Yeah.
that point. It was, and even to this day, my mom says, you're still mad at God. I said, well, we have a love hate relationship.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it made it very difficult to believe in anything when uh, right in the middle of that.
Yeah.
So
Did
yeah.
meeting the second love of your life, did that help to restore any of the faith in that? Because I feel like so much of my view of the divine comes from connection. So I just wonder if you being able to connect with somebody else helped you to see the spirit world any deeper.
Um, that's a good question. I don't know that I've given that any thought.
That's what I'm here
Um,
for.
how long is this podcast? So, so I would say by the time I met him, I already opened myself up to the possibility of a of the spiritual being there. Um, I don't know that I ever fully, quote unquote, forgave God for what He put me through the first time. So it was very difficult. And then even when we had children, it was like I don't want to force them to go to a church. I don't want to push them
Yeah.
into a religion because I've seen what religion uh, it when wielded negatively, the impact that it can have on
Not
somebody.
just seen it, but I mean, you and I, as members of the gay community, have been on the receiving end of
True.
the weapon known as the church.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And so I didn't want to force that. And again, but my by that point, my thought was also that there was no true quote unquote God. There was a something bigger,
Hmm.
but I won't ascribe it to any particular religion,
Sure.
because I think religion is flawed in its own inability to articulate clearly a single thought throughout the whole book
Yep.
of the Bible.
Yeah. No, you're so right. How
the
how
the
did you
contradictions.
how did you meet your second husband?
Um, well, I was
This sounds salacious.
it was no, kind of. I was traveling. I quit my job um, after the second one after 2 years, and I totally changed my life. I threw everything upside down. I quit my job and I started consulting, which required me to travel a lot. So one of the first places I traveled to was Memphis, Tennessee. I knew
I
nothing
love
about
Memphis.
Memphis. I loved Memphis too, but I knew nothing about it
Remember
when
that
I got there.
the pyramid building?
Yeah,
Do you know that it's now a Bass Pro Shop?
is it?
Yes, they turned that
Huh.
pyramid building into a Bass Pro Shop.
I thought it was a concert venue.
It was, but
Yeah,
they turned a big portion of it into the Bass Pro Shop.
I did not know that. Well, I guess I'll have to go back to Memphis. But the only thing I knew about Memphis was barbecue and Elvis,
Mm.
right? Um, two great things. So,
Just this is a side note, but because I'm Southern and barbecue is as equal, style of barbecue is equally as important as to what church you go to and what college you root for. What's your genre of barbecue?
I tend to I tend to like the sauce based.
Okay. So Memphis was a good place for you to get
Yeah,
barbecue.
Memphis was.
I'm a Carolina boy.
So you're into the vinegar base.
Mm-hmm. I put vinegar in everything I cook. I mean,
Well, I like vinegar too, but I
ugh,
like the stickiness of the sauce.
there's a time and a
When
place, and it helps the coleslaw stay with the pork. But I like I'll make my own. I'll do vinegar it's the only time I use Tabasco sauce. Vinegar, Tabasco sauce. I'll put cinnamon in it, and I'll just mix it all together and do a little marinade.
well, that sounds good.
It is good.
I'll
So
have to come back to LA.
yeah, carry on. If I get on food, we're gonna lose it together. But before we hit record, you guys, just so you know, we discovered my next podcast, which is the Fast Food Aficionado, because Jim knows that I am obsessed with fast food. I love McDonald's. I love Arby's. I love but can't go to Chick-fil-A. Moe's Tex-Mex is my favorite place in the world to eat, which is just in the Midwest and the South. So yes,
I think we have one of those where I live. I think there's one close by.
There probably is, and it's literally it would be my last meal. I'm obsessed. Okay. It's the first place that anytime I go home, my mom's always like, "What do you want me to cook?" And I'm like, "Nothing. Let's just go eat all my favorite foods."
Here's where I go. Here's where I go went wrong talking about barbecue.
I know. Let's circle back.
Circling back.
Move to Memphis.
So I had I got an apartment in Memphis. I was there for 9 months or so. But one of those first weekends, I dialed up the modem and just stuck onto AOL and one of those rooms.
Oh, I know those rooms.
And for M rooms in Memphis, and like, hey, I'm going to be working here for several months. I don't know anything about the city. Anybody interested in giving me the lay of the land?
Oh, you got the lay of the land, all right.
Something along those lines, or give me an overview of the city or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so he responded and said, "Well, I was about to go to church, but sure, I can do that if you'd like." So yeah, he was about to go to church.
That's I forgot that tidbit of the book.
Yeah, that's what he's claimed. He may have been, I don't know. So he came by and he drove me all around town and out to Germanville and just all around showing me the basically the lay of the land. And at the end of that, he's like, would you like going on a date with me on Wednesday? And I'm like, okay, sure.
And how many years was this after losing your first husband?
3.
So it was still fresh.
It's still that it was 2.5. Let's see, it was in October of '98. So yeah, it was over 3. So okay. Yeah, 3 years. But I had I dated 1 or 2 before him, or 2 or 3, somewhere in that range. It was a small number. But I knew I wasn't dealing with a long distance relationship. There was no. I did not want to have to deal with a long distance relationship. So anyway, we went to pizza that Wednesday at the nice little pizzeria with a brick oven, and he moved into my apartment shortly thereafter. It seems, bringing his dog with him, and every now and again there would be more clothes, and so I'm not sure how that all happened, but eventually he's like. On Valentine's Day of '99, no, '98, no,
99.
Valentine's Day '99, yes, '99. He proposed. That was 4 months after we'd met. I said yes, and I said I'm not giving up my job. I like what I do, and I'm not doing a long distance relationship.
So pack it up, Bucko. Come
we
west.
We need to make it work.
Yep.
And he did.
Wow.
So I flew back home at the end of my project, and he drove the car with the rental truck with his car towing and the dog on his lap.
Wow. So was he religious?
He No, I wouldn't say no. I mean, so that's why I always questioned whether or not he really admitted he was going to church.
Right.
I did not see him go to church unless it was, with his family.
Maybe he's just
You
trying
know,
to
in the Midwest.
impress the new West Coast liberal, or see if.
I don't know that helped.
And how long were you guys married?
So we were together 15 years.
Wow.
We had done a commitment ceremony in October '99 with a domestic partnership because
Mm-hmm.
that's all that we were worthy of in California at the time. Until 2008 when we hit the brief window of marriage,
Yep.
equality in California. So we got married during that 2008. So we were together from 98 to 2014 when he passed away.
How did he pass?
Um, the official result was a accidental overdose of opioids. He had, during the course of our relationship, multiple back surgeries, and there was one point in the relationship where he was doctor shopping for Vicodin, and he had taken upwards of 30 pills a day, which is shitload.
That's a lot.
Can
Do
I
you
say that
feel
on the
like,
podcast?
because right now this is, I mean, it's been relevant for a while, but right now there's all these, I mean, Johnson and Johnson and I forget the other one, are defending the opioids and saying that it's not as addictive, and it's been all over the news the past couple of days. And I mean, but you saw firsthand how addictive.
It, yeah, it really did come out of nowhere. It seemed.
Had he struggled,
Um,
I mean, to your knowledge, with any kind of addiction beforehand, whether
yeah,
alcohol or
I mean,
even
he didn't
socially?
drink, he didn't like drugs, didn't do anything. And so that I found it incredible that he would be able to do that. Because I had been like I said, traveling for work, so I may not have seen
Hmm.
all of all of the things that were happening at the time. But I saw the withdrawals coming out of the account, and when I approached him, that's what it was. It was bill shopping.
Did he seem to
Um,
have any gay trauma associated with his life, like from childhood?
Outside of the typical religious
Right.
trauma, I don't think so.
Okay. Because I asked
Even
just because addiction can sometimes be attributed to the trauma that. I mean, how many gay men do you know that
well,
struggle with addiction because of just unresolved trauma?
there were some things I think that were unresolved between his birth father and a couple of brothers, but and that was related to the sexuality. So yeah, I guess
Hmm.
there's probably some trauma there that he evidently.
And when losing him, I mean, so by that point you were still kind of, you didn't know where you were on the spirit world, but I can't imagine that uh, this helped your view of the divine. There's that, we both know this Del Shores line. I couldn't decide whether to stay mad at God or just not believe in him, or it was easier to not believe in God than to stay mad at him.
Well, yeah, that is an excellent line. No, it didn't help. Um, I think the thing that did eventually help was just going through the passage of time and working with people like Dell and Levi and you and finding myself in the circle of people who constantly questioning but always positive.
Hmm.
Um, People like that helped kind of ground me in the it's okay to have these thoughts, but to feel that there's something greater
Sure.
to what we're doing in our lives.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think it came full circle as I was writing and reflecting um, the type of people that I'm attracted to, um, vibrationally
Mm-hmm.
are the types of people that are providing some kind of proof to me that there is a greater collective of us,
Yep.
um, in terms of just being connected to other people.
Yeah. There's a poem
Um,
that I love by Richard Verman. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing his name, called Companions. But it kind of speaks to what you just talked about, how, you know, you are vibrationally attracted to people who seem to be searching or actively looking or actively trying to grow. And this poem um, speaks to that. I encourage you all to look it up. Companions by Richard Verman. That's Wehrman. It just I love it. God, I I cannot fathom. I've had loves of my life. I've had boyfriends. You know, there's one in particular that unfortunately seemed to keep coming back. Not because of my own lack of choices. I was fully a participant. But you know, losing them in the sense of like breaking up was difficult enough. I can't fathom what it was like, especially so young, even the second time, to have overcome whatever trauma gay men have, you know, whatever experiences you had in losing friends to HIV, but to lose two partners to two major crises that were and are ignored by this country and our government and our leaders and the religions. Um, that being the AIDS epidemic, which was ignored for so long and is still
mhm.
stigmatized, and then the opioid epidemic, which is overlooked, downplayed, and also stigmatized.
Right.
How? Because I mean, and I know the answer to this, and I think you do it through funding work that hopefully has the power to heal people through being an audience member. But how do you use those experiences to help other people? I mean, like, is that part of the reason that you wanted to get involved with a very sorted wedding and to you know, contribute to Levi's artistic abilities and then also to mine?
Well, I think all is part of the storytelling that can attract the attention of people who need to see it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I got involved in a very sort of wedding because it was an important storyline on top of a successful franchise within the LGBT community that that we needed to share this story.
Yeah.
You know, there's just because we got the marriage equality ruling doesn't mean that everybody was happy about it. And I think
Yeah.
Dell does a brilliant job of writing uh, a serious subject with a comedic flair to it that
Mm-hmm.
gets people listening
Yeah.
and paying attention. Same thing with cognitive. Because I believe in it's I don't and I believe that people faith can coexist with the various sexualities that help the entire broad spectrum. And when people tell me that they are believers or they have faith, I always tell them, I'm very glad that you have something that gives you comfort.
Mm-hmm.
I don't ever want to take that away from somebody else.
Sure. Sure.
So, uh, but I think that they also need to, and I also do this with the book and the blog, is telling the story with truth and understanding where that truth is the only way that you can live your life and move forward with
Yeah.
something. You have to address, and I tell this to people who are grieving, you have to address your emotions where you are now.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't change your past. You have to be where you are now. Whatever you're feeling now, you have to be able to address that. And if you don't know what that truth is, you have to find that truth before
Yeah.
you can ever
And
move
that's
beyond that into your next phase or your next step or
right.
wherever you're moving towards.
Well, and that's why we can't force progress either. Yes, we need to march. Yes, we need to stand up and be vocal and adamant, but progress comes from truth. And so we are responsible for living our truth and expressing our truth, but that may just be the tip of the iceberg to somebody being able to accept something that they're unaware of until it's right in their family, right in their backyard.
Right.
With you've been fortunate to have a family that has been supportive. I mean, your sister went through her born again phase, but she's kind of come back to a sensible association with it now, right?
Right. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
What about the both sets of in-laws? Are you still close with them?
I am. Well, my first husband, both of his parents passed away. So, and I never really knew them.
Right.
Because we were, even after 7 years, he was still kind of closeted with that family.
Sure.
The second husband, also named Bob, by the way. So it made life a lot easier.
I was going to say you never had to worry about calling out the wrong name in bed.
Yeah. So his in-laws, we still get along. They welcomed me with open arms. Even as religious as they were and are, well, I guess more were. They still accepted me and they accepted our children.
Yeah.
So that's something I'm always grateful for is to have them as part of it.
So, but with both of them being named Bob, what was it? Because I tell myself that I could not date someone who had my father's name or my brother's name or my nephew's name at this point for obvious reasons. How did when you first met the second Bob, did you have a bit of hesitation of like, I cannot date someone named the same name as my first husband who's passed?
Yeah, there was a little bit of a hesitation.
Did you say like, can I call you Robert? Can I call you Bobby? Can I call you something like Thomas? That's so not your name.
No, I didn't do that. Although in hindsight, I probably should have. No, I was. Yeah, I do. I think I did have a brief hesitation. I'm like, oh, okay, well. But after a while, it didn't.
Sure.
It didn't freak me out.
What about so jumping now to your kids, Abigail and Daniel, and I got to meet Abigail for the first time in real life this past Sunday too. Daniel's plane was late, so I didn't get to meet him, but I wouldn't have recognized him anyway because he chopped all of his hair off, apparently. What in having kids, I feel like that's a lot of times people's trigger start to either decide what they believe and get their kids to be a part of it, or to kind of just like throw it all up in the air, which you did not want to force them to believe a certain way. So how have you shared your own faith journey with them, or is it, do you guys speak about it?
So when they were younger and they visited the in-laws, Nana would take them to church. Abby still says she was traumatized by the Jesus stories of being hung up on a cross. She is also a drama queen, so she may or may not be traumatized. Daniel has not expressed any interest whatsoever, but what I have tried to do in terms of sharing where I come from is we've talked about those vibrational planes. I've talked about how this past January we lost one of our dogs, and so I talked about vibrationally that was meant to be, that dog was meant to be with us, and that it's probably vibrationally still around, and that how I believe, but I also want them to do their own research.
Sure.
If and an understanding of where they believe, if they believe at all.
If they believe at all, yeah.
Yeah.
Where have they read the book?
My son has not read the book. I know he's not read any part of it. Abby has said that she's read only the sad parts.
She's only read the sad parts?
She's only read the sad parts. And I told her if you're reading only the sad parts, you're missing the point of the whole book. The whole point of the book,
Yeah.
which is that there's more to life than the sad part,
Right.
right? It's called life after losses for a reason. It's
Right.
because you can have a life even after going through those kinds of losses. And like you mentioned earlier, my losses were physical,
Mm-hmm.
um, in terms of death. In some ways, I think I may have got it easier than somebody who may have to wind up getting divorced,
Right.
because that person's still walking around, that person's still living
Sure.
their life,
Sure.
just not with you anymore. So, I think in some weird warped sense of reality, my losses were maybe easier to take than if the other half were still alive.
Mm-hmm. How did they
I don't know.
respond when their father passed?
Um,
I can't
and
imagine. I
the
mean, as hard as it is for you to lose someone, watching two people that you love more than anything in the world lose someone as well.
um, so I had just flown in at 2 a.m. that morning, and just gotten home at that point. It was a Friday morning, and I heard him snoring in the master bedroom. So I said, "Yeah, I'm not putting up with this. I'll go sleep in the guest room." So I went there and slept. Uh, Woke up early because I had a doctor's appointment the next day. He was still snoring, so I got, at the time he had been suffering from pneumonia as well. So I got the kids up, I got them to school, got showered, and covered him up in the blanket, put the dog in bed with him, still snoring away. Went to my doctor's appointment, came back a few hours later. The cleaning ladies were downstairs cleaning, and I asked where he was. They said, "Oh, he was still in bed when we got here." So I went upstairs and could very easy to tell what was going on at that point. So I I went straight for the phone, dialed 911. I knew I needed to start CPR, so start getting him off the bed. Um, we live right in the middle, right near town center, and so within 2 or 3 minutes, the paramedics were there. So we had to go through that, and the police detectives, I read all about it. Um, they were concerned that he had overdosed or something like that. Well, there was some cookie powder on the edge of it. He liked sugar, which, yeah, it's apparently a sign of somebody like that has an opioid problem, is that they like sugar. But he had not had any. What I found out is that day or the day before, his doctors prescribed him fentanyl patches after he had told them no opioids, because he had been clean for years. And why they gave him fentanyl patches on top of pneumonia, I don't know. I can't. I took all the medical stuff over to an attorney and said, "Would you guys have done this?" And they said, "Well, it's a viable course of treatment." So anyway, um, so the kids were in school, and I called one of his friends. So started having a house full of people. Uh, of course, when they came home, because I had the friends go pick them up at school after the school day there. They came home, and we had a house full of people they didn't know. So one, they're all confused because there are all these people in our house. And the fire chaplain told me, you have to be direct with them. You can't say, he's gone to heaven. You can't say anything. You have to say, he's died. He's not coming back. You have to be clear
Right. Right.
to them, which seems really harsh. But at the young age, you've got to understand that that doesn't mean he's not sleeping with the angels.
Mm-hmm.
Um, So I told him, and it was just the sounds that came out of them. Uh, Still, it's not not something I would I ever want to hear
Yeah.
again. So that was one of the very worst conversations I had to have. The second one was talking to his mother
Yeah.
and letting her know that he passed away.
Has
Those
dealing
were
has dealing with that loss made you self-protect in a way that, because I assume that you've dated since then, but like did that keep you, or you've not dated since then?
I have well I have not dated. I've hooked up.
Right.
Um, and those are two different things, obviously.
Yes. Yes.
Um, it has been 7.5 years. I made a conscious decision not to date because I didn't want to bring in new dynamics with my children.
Sure.
I was being protective of my children. Um, and uh, it got to the point where,
Did you use,
um,
was that a scapegoat though, Jim? Do you feel like you were like using that as a reason to not open yourself up for love again?
of course I was.
Yeah.
Of course, that's the other part of it, right? Is I also did not want to risk a three-peat.
Yeah.
You know, Triple Crown is fine when you're horse racing, but not
Yeah.
when you're burying husbands. Um, and so that was part of it. Um, I have uh, since I've written the book and gotten some clarity on some things. I have since I think I mentioned it the other day. I opened myself up to the possibility of potentially looking.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've done some work with
Listen to what you just said. I've opened myself up to the possibility of potentially
yes,
looking.
I leave
Uh,
enough wiggle room. I have to yes. So and then I went. I kind of came to that realization before I went on vacation. So
yeah.
I haven't done it obviously since then. But yeah, I did some work with.
You did say something on Sunday that that made me clinch up. Was when you told your
What was
daughter.
that? If I was 20 years younger, and
No, it was when you told your daughter that she has a better sex life than you do, and I thought, well, y'all are close.
we are close. Yeah. Well, I I tried to foster a relationship with my kids that they can tell me anything, and I think I have
You've
that.
tried to foster
Yeah,
what? Say that again.
a relationship with my kids that they can tell me anything.
Oh yeah,
We can
yeah,
talk about anything, and I think I did that. We learned very early on that there's a word for penis, and there's a word for vagina, and that we use those words. We don't say pee pee and ta ta or
right,
whatever.
right.
You know, we have language. We use language. Um, and so I have tried my best as a single parent to usher them through puberty um, with a sense of understanding their own selves and their own sexuality, as well as being comfortable in talking about their sexuality.
Right. Jim, a lot of people use they credit getting through the grieving process with their faith in God or some kind of spiritual world. Uh, Yours is still, just from what I know of you, is still pretty in flux. So so to people that don't have the kids that they are obliged to wake up and make breakfast for after losing a partner or losing someone important, what it how how do we get to the life after the loss or the loss is? And because I'll be honest too, like when I first started reading your book, I'm not gonna. I mean, I'm 36 years old. I've never lost someone in terms of passing away. And that said, it's almost like, because I think about it. I've had parents. My dad had a brain cancer last year that during COVID that was very scary at the time, and I feel like the longer I go without loss, it's almost like a rubber band being pulled tighter and tighter. And I'm just, and I try not to think about it, but like there is that anxiety of what happens when it snaps. what happens when I do experience loss for the first time, whether it be a parent or a partner, God forbid. I've got to get the partner first, but that's another story. What do we do? I mean, what got you? What's the one thing you could tell me when you lose someone? This is what I wish somebody had told me.
I have, well, I did put several pieces of advice in the book.
Yeah.
I have gone through, so there's a bullet list of 13 pieces of advice.
And we don't want to give all of it away because you should go buy the book. But what's the gist?
But you can also see a lot of stuff on the blog too. So
yes.
The gist of it is that you have to just be aware that there's no timeline. Nobody else tells you how to grieve. It's your journey. You feel what you need to feel when you feel it, and when you're ready, because a lot of it comes down to making that decision that I'm ready for the next step, or I'm ready to stop living in the past.
So it's have grace for yourself.
It's
which is odd because when people, how many people told you at the time how to grieve, how to deal with this? So you've got to have that grace for yourself. It sounds like, because not everyone else is going to have the grace for you in your timeline.
Right. And you have to be kind to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's going to process their grieving timeline differently, but we all go through a lot of the same things, and it's understanding what those things are that you're going to go through.
Sure.
And then developing strategies to deal with them.
Yep.
And so I have written about that, and I've done 3 webinars on so far. So the stuff is out there on YouTube.
It must be so tough to be known as an expert in grieving.
It took me a while to embrace that title.
Have you seen people benefit from your storytelling, from how you are able to communicate your experience? You've seen that you maybe have saved someone else from going down the hole of addiction, or
I have, and I read. They tell you not to read the reviews, but I read the reviews anyway.
We all read the reviews.
And I just got my 43rd credit rating on Amazon today. So 4.4 stars. It's not bad.
That's pretty fucking good.
That's pretty good. And it's 3.87 on Goodreads. So
yes.
Not that I know these. I don't.
No. You made it very clear that you don't associate anything with numbers. No calendars, no reviews, no stars.
No, but the feedback that I've gotten, or reading some of the reviews that I've read, have been really emotional to me, because the book is hitting what I wanted to hit. I wanted to be able to help people understand what they're going through, and how they can tweak whatever I did for their own benefit, and to make it more personalized. Because it's not, I don't believe in a cookie cutter approach to going through life.
Yeah.
Because we're all different. We all vibrate.
Yep.
Slightly different.
The book really. Sorry, go ahead.
And I've gotten some great emails from people who don't
just saying thank
reviews.
You.
I got an email not too long ago saying, I lost my partner after 13 years, and your book really helped me understand what I'm going through. One person wrote about losing their kid, which would totally do me in if I lost one of mine. But how it helped them kind of release some anger around that. And
do those reviews and feedbacks, they must help you heal that much more in this process, because you don't ever stop grieving, do you?
You don't. No, I don't believe you ever stop. I believe it's always there. I think time itself helps lessen the intensity, just because of time. But
it's like those little things, like, next week's the 14th. That's 7.5 years from the day. It's
Right.
those little things that just trigger you all the time.
Yeah. Well, I have a class on August 14th, so that's 26
Yeah.
years. So, um, but I know what I'm going to do that day. I'm anticipating how I'm going to feel that day, and
Mm-hmm.
so knowing these things ahead of time allows me to stop and acknowledge, say, yeah, this is the day. I still miss you.
Yeah.
I'm still living.
Yeah.
Because that's the bottom line is that I'm still living. I still have a life to live.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and in a sense, like I imagine that you feel that they live through you and your decisions and behaviors.
well, yes, absolutely. Because I've written about this recently too, where part of the reason that I don't feel that the grief doesn't go away is because grief is just love that doesn't have a place to go. I never stopped loving these men, right? So the grief is
Say
there.
that again,
Love.
just so that everyone hears that.
I'll even slow it down to enunciate.
You must
Grief
be in Del
is
Shore's class.
I am. Uh, Grief is just love that has no place to go. I never
grief
stopped loving these men.
Grief is just love that has no place to go.
Yeah. I never stopped loving them. So I'm now transferring that love is now grief because they're no longer there to accept the love physically, and so I never stopped loving them. They're always going to be part of me. They are part of my story. They're part of who I am. They're part of the strength that I have become. Uh, they're part of the man that I am today. So I don't. So this is another reason why I don't think we ever get over any relationship because they're all part of building blocks of
Mm-hmm.
who we become and how we define ourselves.
Sure. It's wildly informative. What would be one thing that you would, if the face of the divine were in front of you, what's the one thing you would want to say to them?
Um, hmm, that's a tough one. I'm struck between being sarcastic, mean. Um, but honestly, I'm leaning towards thank you.
Mm.
That
Based on
my
knowing your
first initial response was you son of a bitch, but that's my smart ass response.
right.
As I am just thinking about it, I see thank you.
Yeah. I think that actually makes a lot of sense because there's this idea, no matter what your background is, as kids, we're all taught something about God, whether they're this or they don't exist or they're that. And where I am right now, because those two sentiments are they resonate with me too. The one being gratitude, the one being like, what the fuck are you doing? And I've had a
Yeah.
hard time. To me, it's been difficult to disassociate the divine from God. At first glance, it sounds like the same thing. But when I say God, I mean the Southern Baptist Jesus that we were taught about, that I don't
Right.
believe in, that I think is actually a sham and used as a way to hold power over people, whether it be misogynistically based, racially based, or just
All
religiously
true.
based. But the divine, that I can say thank you to, and that I do say thank you to. I mean, like I have a gratitude journal that I write in just about daily. That ends up being more than gratitude. It's just, I mean, God forbid anyone ever find it. I'm not telling you. I'm not going to announce where I keep it hidden, my little diary. But it's full of like that book is my divine. That's my connection to the spirit world. I feel like, but the God, that's the one that I'm like, who the fuck do you think you are? How dare you,
Hmm.
you son of a bitch? And that's what I try
Yeah.
to get across with cognitive is just that especially Christians, we are told we cannot challenge God. We are told we cannot ask God questions or curse God. But even if you believe in the Christ cursed God in a sense by saying, you forsook me. I know that's not the
Yeah.
right tense of the verb, but and
Why have
that's
you
what
forsaken me?
I've had Rabbi Denis Sager on a few episodes ago. And what I love about Jewish culture is that the entire basis is to challenge God, to ask questions,
Ask
to
questions.
seek
Exactly.
answers. And that's why, I mean, I'm reading a lot. I actually just got this book in the mail yesterday that I started, Becoming Eve by Abby Stein. Is about she was or they were an ultra Orthodox rabbi, and now they identify as a transgender woman, and
Oh,
and I just love that there's a space to like ask those questions. So I think it's important that we do recognize those two sentiments you just had, because that's our, I mean, isn't that the relationship that we have with the divine? Like there's days where we're pissed because the world is going through a pandemic and there's bullshitters out there who are not letting us get past it. And then there's days where we recognize that, like, look at that sunset. Like, that's
hmm
stunning. Look at my kids. They're so happy. And that makes me happy. I did the right thing. I just think that
yeah.
honesty with the divine is of the utmost importance to get us to a place of knowing who the divine is to us. And I love that you did that through your book by being so honest and candid about it. So where can we find your book? I mean, we've already discussed it, but just as a tag, tell us where to go to buy the book.
Well, it's available on Amazon, for one. Basically any bookstore. You can get it at Barnes and Noble online. Um, I'm selling signed copies from my website, jameslaveck.com or lifeafterlosses.com. They
And
all,
that's where the blog is, right?
yes. So there's on the homepage, there's the Life After Losses book. There's a link to that. Then there's a link to the Life After Losses blog as well. I have taken the month of July off, except for a few things like this, and we'll be back into the writing next week. I think August
Cool.
1st is going to be the next update on the blog. It's updated every Sunday.
Nice.
I try to, or I have tried over the last. I started in November of last year. Try to include uh, some helpful tips. The last 13 weeks have been all about those 13 tips,
Mm-hmm.
where we've done some, and then I've done some deeper dives in that via video calls as well, where we've had a number of people online and asking questions, about different strategies that I've used. Um, so I'm hoping that I get to reach more people because what I appreciate, you mentioned earlier, are things like the reviews where there's a tangible effect
Mm-hmm.
to some people, um, and it's not a gay story. It's not an LGBTQ story solely. It's not a religion story. It's uh, it's a story about something a lot of us go through, this
Yep.
loss, and how do you come out from the other side
Yeah.
of that? And it's interesting that a lot of the feedback I've gotten has been from a lot of straight women,
Yeah. Mm.
and
Well,
some of them are
I
like,
encourage you guys to go and check it out. Lifeafterlosses.com. There's the chance to read the blog that will return soon, and also buy the book. Um, and Jim, I tend to ask these two questions also to end each episode. What do you say to a young queer person or any queer person who is struggling with a faith identity? And then what do you say to a person of a faith identity who's struggling with the idea of accepting that love like yours is valid?
oh, two tough ones. So for the the, the first question, what do I say to a younger person who's dealing with faith issues? Um, open your eyes to more than what you've been told.
Mm-hmm.
Um, listen to people like the Matt and your guests. The last 8 weeks, you've had some fantastic guests. Um, I've learned an awful lot just listening to the rabbi you mentioned, and then you had several other people who. So I would suggest that if you're questioning faith, it's not faith as a whole; it's a faith specific
Mm-hmm.
to what you were told. So open your horizons and look beyond just that,
Yeah.
because there's something out there for somebody to believe in that isn't just narrowed down to a particular denomination within a particular faith.
Yep.
Because I don't believe any one particular denomination has the truth.
Yep. Well,
The
don't
truth
tell
is
that to the
out there.
Baptists.
Well,
Don't tell that to the
yeah. So
Baptists.
which Baptist? The
Well,
Southern Baptist, or the
I
So
kind of group them all in the same. I mean, there's a couple good ones out there.
I went to a Baptist church. Actually, I got rebaptized in a Baptist church
Oh,
when I was a teenager, trying to get rid of the gay,
yep.
or not when I was in the video.
Clearly, it did not work.
No, it didn't. Uh, there's another topic that I'll have to share off of recording. But for the person of faith who's struggling with the sexuality of other people's faith, um, I would have the same advice. Open your eyes. See for yourself that that gay and lesbian and bisexual, we're not deviants.
Mm-hmm.
Homosexuality exists in nature.
Yep.
If it wasn't natural, it wouldn't exist. Period.
I wish it existed in my bedroom.
Well, that's another subject.
It exists in nature, just not my bedroom. Great.
Yeah.
That's the title. That's the title of my autobiography. That's the next podcast.
Boy, you're gonna be podcasting up the word up a storm.
Well, whatever
But
it
yeah,
takes.
I think that's what I would tell them is open your eyes.
Yeah.
It, you know, my mom has become an advocate for gay and lesbian parenting.
Hmm.
She's of a certain generation that when when they hear of gay parents, she will turn around and say, "My son and his husband did a damn fine job raising my grandchildren.
Yeah.
So don't you come back at me like that."
Yep.
Something like that, where if you open your eyes and you see what's there and associate with people, we realize that we're not all as polarized as everybody as they're trying to make us be.
Yep. Yep.
There's far more that unites us.
Yep.
And if we stop listening to them telling us how the other person is thinking, and think for ourselves for change on both sides, we might be able to get along again.
And with that, I think we will call this episode wrapped. Jim, thank you so much for sharing your story. I know that it probably doesn't get any easier each time you tell it with recounting those painful experiences, but I hope that through even talking about it today, that you feel lighter. And I hope, and actually, I don't hope, I know that there are going to be people listening to this episode who are probably sitting in their car crying, feeling relieved, feeling a sense of, I feel seen. Because of you being able to share your story. And I think that's what makes artists, or what makes us artists, is the ability to use what we've been through to help heal the world, to help progress the world. And that's exactly what you're doing. And as a little bit of a brag on you for a second too, because we didn't talk about the fact that author James LaVeck is also author, actor James LaVeck. Jim started when I helped Del create the Del Shore Studio last year during COVID. Jim was one of my very first students in my Wednesday class, and half my Wednesday class is because of you. They're all the real housewives of Lunenburg, is what I call them. I have a magnet of all three of them on my refrigerator right now. But anyway, and then you graduated into the master's class with Del. And you just booked a show in Lunenburg, right?
I did. Yeah, I booked a role in Neil Simon's Rumors. Just a smaller role because it's been many years since I've been near a stage. So,
well,
yeah, I'm looking forward
it's
to
happening.
doing so.
I'm so excited for you, and I have some miles. I want to be there so bad. I'm looking at it. So I also, because I want to go stay at Julie's Beach, her little new ocean home, her lake house. Yeah,
lake house.
Yeah.
Yes, it does look gorgeous.
I know. Well, Jim, thank you again. Lifeafterlosses.com or JamesLaVeck.com, and then also on Instagram and Facebook. What are you? Are you Jim or James?
It's either going to be J LaVeck, JLaVeck, or Life After Losses.
Yep,
I have
both on
both.
Instagram.
Both on
And he posts
Instagram.
some really great inspirational stuff there too. So
I try to do something every day.
yeah, so go buy the book, y'all. It's a really a beautiful story about how to cope with loss. So thank you again, Jim. I love you lots, and I will see you soon. Okay.
All right. Thanks, man. Love you too.
The Fagnostic Podcast is a Matt Hayes production, hosted by, you guessed it, Matt Hayes. You can find me at matthayes.com, that's MATHAYES.com, or on all the socials at Hayes on it, HAYES on it. Music by Michael Spicer. The Fagnostic Podcast is proud to be supported by the Del Shore Studio. Whether you're acting from a pulpit or a proscenium, whether you're writing for a Bible study or a scene study, the Del Shore Studio is an online school offering classes and workshops encouraging all artists to scratch deeper. Visit thedelshorestudio.com for more information.